Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryamkaravavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Let us pronounce verses 5 through 8. Okay. Well, let's pronounce number 1 first to begin the whole thing, and then from 5 to 8. So number 1. Rupam Drishyam Lochanam Drik Tadrishyam Driktumanasam Drishyadhi Vrittaya Sakshi Drigeva Natu Drishyate. Then number 5, sorry. Nodeti nastametyesha navriddhim yati nakshayam swayam vibhatyatanyani bhasayet sadhanam vina chitchaya veshato buddhau bhanam dhistu dvidhastita ekahankritirit Eha hankritiranya syat antak karna rupini chaya hankara yoraikyam taptayaf pindavan matam tadahankara tadatmyat dehas chetanam Chetanatam gatat. Dehas chetanatam gatat. Number 8. Ahankarasya tadatmyam chitchaya dekshasakshibhi. Again. Ahankarasya tadatmyam chitchaya dehasakshibhi. Sahajam karmajam bhranti janyascha trividham kramat. Sahajam karmajam bhranti janyam cha trividham kramat. Not bhranti, as I think made a mistake. So sahajam karmajam bhranti janyam cha trividham kramat. Anyway, so we'll go over the verse number 8 today in more detail. So what we had seen last week was that my taking myself to be as I am in my life, which is a functioning human being, functioning with the help of a hardware and software. Hardware is the body, like you pick up, you pick up a laptop. You pick up a laptop, you cannot have the software without the laptop. So this is a solid body. But you just cannot just have the solid body. You can have it if you want to, but you can use it as a paperweight, unless you have some software. So the software is the one which is contained in the body and makes it into a functioning appliance. So the human being is exactly like that. The human being, really all living beings, but here we're talking about human beings. The human being is a functioning appliance with a body that people can identify with. When you shake hands with somebody or you pat somebody, you say, I'm shaking hands with you. And the functioning human being also has thoughts. And there's some more things involved. There's also the physiology, the fact that it is a self-correcting body, that it has some very interesting features to it. Anyway, we don't have to go through all of that. But anyway, this is an appliance. This is me. And I evaluate myself with this is me. And I'm changing. I used to be a baby. Then I grew up. And I acquired some knowledge, some physics, chemistry, engineering. And now I'm endowed with some knowledge, and so on and so forth. And I'm conscious, I'm alive. And so this is who I am in my estimation at this point. And as a result of this estimation, I have some problems. And the problems are, they are inherent in my estimation. Inherent in the sense that I'm very much aware of the fact that I'm aging. So, the aging of the body and the aging of the mind, that is really happening to me. I am beginning to not have the words. I can see something, but I don't remember the word for it. It's happening. And if I don't meet someone continuously, I forget their names. So there is aging of the mind also. This is happening. This is very very predictable. It happens to everyone. Not everyone, most of them at different times. And then you can even have amnesia, you can have Alzheimer's, all kinds of things. So anyway, we're aging. So inherent in my estimation of who I am, there are problems. And if aging is not the only problem, my emotional connection with the world keeps changing. My estimation is based on what others think of me. And if somebody criticizes me, then I don't like it because I think I'm above criticism, but I have to accept it, and grudgingly. And so I have reactions to how the world behaves with me. All those kinds of things. I'm just giving you all. So this is the issue that I have. And the question is this the way it's going to be? Is it, and it appears to be. You ask around, there's 6-7 billion people in the world. Billion. Unthinkable. Masses and masses of people. And supposing you want to do a thesis, this is what happens. People do all these kinds of evaluations of people. Supposing you do and saying, okay, is this the way it is for everybody? Everybody is born and everybody dies, and then you age and you have problems and you have some triumphs, some accomplishments, and so on. And the answer will be yes. This is what everybody is. Get used to it. Do the best you can. Here, our old spiritual knowledge says no. There is something else going on here. Please inquire into it. You are not just what you see yourself to be. In fact, you are an imposter. Imposter in the sense that you have a notion about who you are, but this is not the reality about yourself. And so the verse number 7 went through, which we talked about it last time, and it says that really speaking, in the phenomena of from the very beginning, which was Rupam, Drishyam, Lochanam, Drik, etc., etc., then Drigevanatus Drishyate, there is a Sakshi that doesn't change. It is always a seer. And then this is given in the explanation in the verse number 5. Na udeti. It is never born. Na astameti. That's more important to me. Whether I'm born or not I'm already here. There's nothing I can do about it. But na astameti means that it doesn't disappear. Now that is something this is something new. And not something that so far I'm used to. Not only that, perhaps I don't die, but during my life I keep on changing. No. In verse number 5 it also says, Na vriddhim yati nakshayam. There's no change. And so this is something new. So the spirituality points out, the Shastra points out that listen, your self-estimation that you are a appliance with all the things we talked about so far is not correct. Look into that. You're not an appliance. You are the one that makes the appliance go. Just like an electricity makes. You are the electricity, my friend. You are not the appliance. It's okay for you to enjoy the appliance because it is your power that makes it work. You should see that. But you are not the appliance. So what it means is, as one of the students had asked, what is the wrong with, why don't I take myself, what's wrong with my taking myself to the appliance? Well, what's wrong with taking myself to the appliance is that the appliance can break. It can cease to function. And if I take myself to be an appliance, then I cease to function. I break. That's what's wrong with it. And if that is the only truth, then there's nothing else I can do. Turns out it is not the truth. You are the electricity that makes the appliance go. You are the Sakshi. Na udeti, na astameti esha, na vriddhim yati nakshayam swayam vibhati athanyani sadhanam vina. You are self-existing, you don't depend on anything. Anyway, this we will clarify further as we go. So here, then the verse number 7 was, how is it that I take myself to be an appliance? How come? How did that happen? So the whole phenomena is now revealed and explained, that just like you have a reflection, similarly there is a reflection of you in the appliance. And really speaking, this is exactly, if all this seems like, this is all theoretical stuff, is there some reality to it? here the dream experience becomes very important. And I've mentioned this to our experienced students know that in this whole creation of God, the creation of dream experience is a very important one, because it tells me the keys to freedom. By analysis of the dream experience, I can relate to it that yes, it is possible. And what is possible? In the dream, you have a situation where you, the waking person, splits up into two things. One is a dreamer, a dream character, and the one is the dreamt world. Exactly the same way, this is in number 7, it's J, says, Chit chaya aveshatau buddhau tapta ayaf pindavan matam tadahankara tadatmyat dehas chetanam agatat. So he says this is exactly what it happens, that you are, so this is a second example given. So one is a reflection, and we will come back to the reflection at later time. But the other one is just like you have a fire that identifies, that actually envelops a cold round iron ball and makes the cold dark iron ball glow, emanating light and hot. And similarly, the sakshi, the electricity enveloping your body, takes the form of the body and takes the form of the mind. And so now you're saying, I am tall, I am a female, I am a male. So you take the characteristics of the body to be yourself. You say, I am an iron ball. You forget, you didn't, in this case you never even knew that you are the fire which is enveloping the ball. You don't know that. So you look at the ball and feel this is who you are. You have a shape, and you also have changingness, because just like an appliance that can break, here also the hot round ball can cool and become dark. And this is exactly what happens in our life, that our body cools, it ages and atrophies. And as the body atrophies, as the body cools and shrinks and ages, I feel I am atrophying, cooling, aging, shrinking. This is exactly what happens. So here, and also how the phenomena is that so just to go back to the dream example for a minute, so there are two things involved in the dream. Your reality as a waker is hidden from you, and instead you are now acquiring the identification with a dream character. So this is what is called tadatmyam. Tadatmyam. Tasya atmyam iti tadatmyam. Means you take on the identity of a dreamer. And then you now have the experience of I am a dreamer and I am dreaming. You don't say I'm dreaming. You don't even say I'm a dreamer. You say I am someone, some kind of a character. And then you say I am thinking. I don't like that person and I like this person and that thing bothers me. All those kinds of experiences in the dream, you're thinking. Then you become happy, you become unhappy, and in fact our Shastra points out that supposing you were fasting the whole day in the real life, and finally you had something in the evening, like a religious fast, and all day long you were just pining for, I'm so hungry, I cannot drink water. This happens all the time. You self-impose, some kind of a fast on yourself and you're hungry. Then you have a nice meal. You have a nice meal and you went to sleep and you became a dreamer. There the pangs of hungers can come back again. You may be full, but in the dream you are still hungry because it reminds you of the hunger for the whole day. So you create a dream. I'm very hungry. So even the physical experience is different, mental experiences are different. So here it is pointed out like that when the Chit-Chaya is entered into, when the reflection of the Sakshi enters the mind, it splits up into two. One of them is Ahankara. This is number 6. Chit-Chaya aveshyatau buddhau bhanam dhihi tu dvidha stita. It's a twofold. Eka ahankritihi. Ahankritihi means the I thought. Anyasad antakarana rupini. So there are two of them. So this ahankara, me, which is the self-estimation of who I am, is not really true. It is an imposter. It's an identification with something that I am not. So here the identification could be in a dream character, or it could be in the example of ittaptaya pinda. So like a green, like a round ball. You have an identification. This is what is called tadatmyam. So the word tadatmyam is an interesting and an important technical word in Vedanta, which means an identification. What does identification mean? This is very nicely given in the example by Swami Viditatmananda in the book Drg Drsya Viveka. But before I do that, let me, so that is the verse number 8. So let me talk about the imposter nature of the ahankara. Ahankara means the I thought. The I thought means a self-evaluation of myself. This is who I am. Because you can even interview someone and say, describe yourself. And whatever the description, they'll say, I am this, I am that, this is how educated I am, I was born from, all those kinds of self-evaluation. And say, I am. This is the ahankara. This is me. So this me is an imposter. What do you mean by an imposter? Imposter means, as Swami Viditatmananda ji very nicely explained, and that example was given by our common guru, Swami Dayanand ji. And quite frankly, it is used in elsewhere also. It's a very beautiful example. The example is in an Indian wedding setting. For those of us that are from India know this very well. Others, I can introduce this concept to you. It may not be very familiar to you. Indian weddings are a huge affair. Huge affair. You have hundreds of people on the bride side, hundreds of people on the groom side. There's a big to-do, big tamasha. There's music, there's religious ceremonies, there's food, there's all kinds of stuff. And what happens is that food is very rich and very good. And you have lots of friends from the groom side, family and friends, and lots of family and friends from the bride side come together for a short time to celebrate this wedding. So you meet a lot of people that you don't know. You've never met them before. This fact is taken advantage of by some clever people who dress up well. This happens in college towns. This is a real happening. It happens all the time. So some students and so on, they put a tie on and so on and so forth, and they enjoy the food. So they go to the bride's parents and say, by the way, we are sitting over here. Can you bring us some fresh naan and some vegetables and good food and desserts and so on and so forth? We have not been served very well. So the bride's parents say, wow, he must be from the groom's side. I better take good care of him, because you cannot have a bad reputation. If somebody is asking you, you have to comply. Then they move over to the groom's side and say, by the way, we need some other things. We need to pack up some food. And so they say, okay, if the other side is wanting this, then it must be. So they play the game both ways. After a while, they get suspicious. This guy is just overreaching for things. So what happens is that the groom's dad and the bride's dad, or mothers or whatever, they get together and say, is he from your side? So the fellow says, no, I thought he was from your side. He says, no, we don't know him at all. This imposter is sitting there watching these two people communicate. He says, this is the time to leave because I have been exposed. And he disappears. This is the story. And so this is exactly what happens in our self-evaluation. How? Because there are two things involved here. One is the electricity, and the other one is the appliance. One is awareful, one is sakshi, and the other one is lochanam, mind, eyes, prana. All these are inert. So one is conscious, the other one is inert. So the person, the ahankara, goes to he commands all. This is what we do. We command our sense organs and say, listen, I want you to do this. I want you to go here. And the ahankara, all the body-mind complex, he says, I guess, he's the big boss and he's asking us to do this, so he complies. You turn your hand and he says, okay, now do it this way. So the hand complies. And then you tell your eyes, shut your eyes, open up again. And that happens. The eyes also comply. So it's like going to one side and throwing your weight around. Then you go to the other side to the Sakshi and says, do you want to be feeling important? Don't you want to do some things that the appliances is capable of doing? So the Sakshi says, yeah, sure. Yeah, absolutely. So then it goes to the appliance and is okay and says, work, do this. So he tells to the Sakshi, don't you feel good about it? Sakshi says, yes, I do. And finally, at some point in time in life, you discover, who is this guy? He is making the Sakshi dependent on the appliance. And he's making the appliance dependent on the Sakshi. It's a mutual dependence. This is what is called Anyonya Tadatmyam. Anyonya Tadatmyam means that there is a mutual dependence. So the fire and the iron ball have a mutual dependence. Because the fire makes it into a hot ball, and the ball makes the fire into a visible round thing which is very beautiful to look at. This is what happens. So now this is an imposter. Imposter in the sense there is no such thing as if this is a human being. Either the human being is just a perceived combination of Sakshi and all the appliance. When inquired into, you have to resolve into one or the other. And it turns out that the appliance which is not supported by the Sakshi disappears. It's like a dream. And this is exactly what happens in the dream also. And under certain circumstances, you can have a nightmarish experience and you wake up. And when you wake up, then the dreamer also goes, the dream also goes. You are free from both of them. This is freedom in life that we are all asked to look into. And so you don't have to, the whole humanity does not have to suffer because the status of a humanity is an imposter. This looks very interesting and rather hard to believe, but it is a fact. So, this tadatmyam, which is an identification, is an important thing to see. And so what happens is that identification means, as Swami Viditatmananda has pointed out in his book also, it is just like you and I going to a movie. When we go to a movie, and if the movie is very good, it is well done, then I tend to identify with a character in the movie. And nobody identifies with the villain. People identified with heroes and heroines. And so a good person is who we want to identify with. And a good person that has some bad experiences. And so there might be a death in the family, you may get your money stolen, whatever. But your identification is with the hero or the heroine. When that happens, you take on the characteristics of that role that the hero and the heroine plays. If the hero is sad and crying, you become sad and crying. You are so in with the character that you forget, as Swamiji pointed out, you are sitting there drinking Coke and having popcorn and with a cell phone in the hand, and you have your spouse sitting next to you and so on. You forget all that. You forget all that and you're crying. You're crying. And that's all because of the identification. So your own identity at that point is hidden in the background, and you take on a perceived identity of something else. By the way, the same thing happens, as Swamiji also pointed out, in sports things. And so in sports, you are so identified with your local team that when they lose, you lose. And they win, you become very ecstatic. So this is what is defined in the word fan. Fan means fanatic. It's not like you say, oh, these two teams move, and you are so affected by the wins and losses of the team that you feel you are winning, you are losing. Okay, so this is the definition of ahankara. Ahankara means your self-evaluation of yourself. Now let us go to verse number 8. Having done this background of the word identification. So what we have so far explained is the word ahankara. Ahankara is the self-evaluation of myself, the who am I, the I thought. Aham karoti iti ahankara, the one which says me, me, me. This is the one thing we have talked about. And the other one is the word of called identification. Tadatmyam. So now let us look at the important verse number 8. Okay, which we may not be able to complete today, but we will start on it and we will certainly complete it next week. So in number 8 we saw ahankarasya tadatmyam, the identification of the human self-evaluation, human evaluation. Self-evaluation means you're not evaluating anyone else. You have your own idea of who you are. So that is called ahankara. That person's identification, tadatmyam, is of 3 kinds. Ahankarasya tadatmyam chitchaya deha sakshibhi. It is with 3 things. One is chitchaya. Chitchaya means the reflection of consciousness, as we saw in verse number 6 and 7. The second one is deha. Deha means the body. It's interesting, the word deha, and I think all the new students should know this, that in Sanskrit the words all have a etymological significance. In other words, words mean something. They are not just, there are some words that don't mean anything. This is called rudi artha. Rudi artha means one which is just by convention. But those are very few. Most of the words have a significance. So the word deha, so for example, they say the word body in English and in German and so on, you must have a similar name. Italian, you must have a similar name for the body. But in English it says body. So what does the word body mean? Body doesn't mean anything. It means somebody who has a physical form. How did that word come about because of the physical form? We don't know. So this is how when the children are growing up, they are taught this is called your body. Really? This is called my body? Yes, body, body, body. Then by repetition I say this is my body. In Sanskrit this doesn't happen. In Sanskrit most of them are called Vyutpatti Artha. Vyutpatti means etymology. So the word Deha means Dahana Yogya. Dahana Yogya means one which ultimately has to be burned. This is called Deha. So the word Deha means the one which is subject to being burnt. It can catch fire and then it's gone. It can catch fire. So this is called Deha. So anyway, going back to this, Ahankarasya Tadatmyam, Chitchaya number 1, Deha number 2 body, and Sakshibihi with the number 3. These are the 3 kinds of identification that Ahankara has. And now correspondingly, how they are born is revealed in the second part of this verse. First part was Ahankarasya Tadatmyam, Chitchaya, reflection of consciousness. Secondly is Deha. And the third one is not the reflection of the consciousness, but with Chit itself. That also has a... So we will see all 3 of them. So those are the 3 kinds of identifications, and they are born as follows, for the following reason. Second line, Sahajam, and they are corresponding. So Chitchaya is Sahajam, Deha is Karmajam, and Sakshibihi is Bhrantijam. Trividham Kramat. Trividham Kramat means that they are corresponding to each one of them. So the first one is Chitchaya, Sahajam, Deha, Karmajam, Sakshihi, Bhrantijam. These are the 3. Okay, so let's look into that. So Sahajam means natural. Natural, and there is nothing you can do about it. There's no need to do anything about it. It doesn't cause any problems. It's natural. So like for instance, suppose you look at yourself in the mirror or any other reflecting surface for that matter, then your reflection and the surface of the reflecting surface and your reflection will all be together. This is Tadatmyam. That this is my reflection, is a natural phenomena. There's nothing wrong with that, and it's very, very natural and simple, and it's going to happen. In other words, if you have a mirror and you look into it, you will find your reflection will appear to you to be there. So remember, we are talking about you, your ahankara, your I thought, looking at the identification with the chitchaya. That this is my reflection is a natural one that doesn't need to be challenged. There's no need for you to inquire into it. It's It's harmless. That's the word I was looking for. It's harmless, natural. Then the second one, which is tadatmyam with the deha. The first one is tadatmyam with the chitchaya. The second one is tadatmyam with the deha. Deha means my identification with this body is based on karma. Karma means my past, all the things that I have done that brought me into this body. So I have a continuous stream of being born and dying, born and dying. And the choice of what kind of a body I will have in a given life is based on all the prior situations that prompted me to take this body. So, for instance, just to give you an idea, if your past actions were were not good, supposing you were, attacking people, and you were fighting with people, and even you were killing people and so on. Versus, so this is what is called papa karma. Papa karma means very unpleasant karma. Then those results will come to you, because there is no interruption. This whole thing is a complete science where your karmas and karma phalas accurately reflect each other. And just because you lost a life, like so, for example, suppose, I'm just making it up, supposing you are a serial killer and you've killed many human beings, which is a very worst thing that one can do. You should not killing anyone, but least of all human beings. Then suppose, and then you somehow escaped, and so that happens sometimes. You find that these serial killers are never found. All of a sudden they live a normal life and so on and so forth, but they've killed multiple people. Well, can you say that somehow they escaped the karma phala? No. They will have to bear it in the next life. And in one form or the other, they will become animals or something, or afflicted themselves. You will have lots of problems happening to you. And vice versa, if you have some very good karma, then you have to be rewarded for it. Supposing you lost your life in saving somebody else's life, then you will be rewarded in your next life or subsequent lives for the good deed that you did. And so your selection of who you are, and so what happens is, this is what our Shastras tells us, that there are three classes of bodies. So one is the celestials, devas, one is human beings, manushya, and the third one is animals. And so what happens is that in a manushya, human, the papa and punya, the good karmas and bad karmas, are more or less in the same field. Maybe a little bit less, maybe a little bit more. So obviously there are people who are very happy and they are doing well, and other people who are unhappy and not doing well. So there are some differences, but the people are more or less on the 50-50. My teacher used to say that if you have been very happy, be ready for some unhappiness to come your way. And vice versa. If you've been very unhappy, then chances are this is not going to last because of a somewhat of a balance between happiness and unhappiness. This is the Manusya. Now if you look at Devas, they have preponderance of fun and happiness and very little unhappiness. There is unhappiness even in Devatas. They become jealous of each other. So the jealousy comes in. But by and large, they are happy people. If you look at animals, by and large, they have very little sukham. Very little sukham, mostly joy. Mostly they have problems. The lucky ones are the ones who are domesticated dogs. I see them, they're pampered all the time, having a wonderful life. So there are some differences. But generally speaking, the animals are in bad shape, Devatas are in very good shape, and Manusyas are somewhere in between. So now, going back to this, how long will my identification take place with this body by the end of this life? This will continue on through the end of this life. You cannot suddenly have in the middle of a life an identification with some other body. Cannot happen. Cannot happen. This is why actually the only thing that happens is that you own it somehow. So this is what happens, that you may not be sick. If you are sick, then you are unhappy. But if your son and daughter gets very sick, that also you can become unhappy. I remember that when our granddaughters were very young, that they'll develop a very bad cold and so on. And then we will ask my son and daughter-in-law, how is she doing? Is her cold any better? I hope it is. I'm concerned about her. One time my granddaughter, she's a kind of a tomboy. She just is physically very active. And she fell from a parallel bars and broke her elbow. And so the teacher called the mother. Mother was working someplace, and so and the father was also working. So I got a phone call and saying, please, I want to inform you that your granddaughter has broken her arm, and we're taking her to the hospital, and so on and so forth. So, I was very concerned. And her body pain kind of became my body pain. So yeah, you can normally identify with your own body, but once in a while, for loved ones, where you own, so this is an interesting thing. This is what is called Gauna Atma. Gauna Atma. Gauna Atma means secondary Atma. One is Mukhya Atma, which is my body, not Atma in that sense, but the identification with the body. And the other one is Gauna Atma. So that happens too. But leaving that aside, my identification with this body will last me through this life. Then when this life is over, again all the karmas that have been stored in my history, in the cloud of Ishvara's infinite cloud. He's got an infinite cloud memory. Infinite. We know we run after 1 gigabyte or something. We say, I'm sorry, I don't have any more cloud storage. But in Ishvara's cloud storage, it is infinite. In that storage, all the karmas have been stored, negative and positive. And based on that, and also based on your last life, just the immediate life, which is very important, what your tendencies are, what you want to do, what your aspirations are, based on that, then the next life will be determined. Where you are born, are you born in a educated family, or you are not born in an educated family, you're born into some wild forest area, are you born into a town with all the universities, your parents, your friends, all of that is determined by your karmas. So this is what it is saying. So the second identification of the ahankara is that of the body, which is karmajam. It is based out of karma, and the disassociation will happen at the end of the life also, not before that. Until then, you are stuck with this body. So this is number 2. The third one is the really important one. So the first one is natural, you don't have to do anything about it. The second one, you cannot do anything about it. You're stuck with this deha. The third one is the one that we have to work on. And this is called Bhrantijanyam. How is it born? First one is natural, second one is because of karma. The third one is based on Bhranti. Bhranti means a delusion. Ignorance have nothing to do with reality. You're just making things up. And how this we will spend more time on next week, but let me at least give you an introduction to it. And so the identification of the Sakshi with the Ahankara is based out of non-understanding, which could be called a delusion. You're taking a wrong thing to be right. This is what happens. And so, for instance, for the electricity to take itself as an appliance is Bhrantijanyam. You forget that you are independent of the appliance. You are free-flowing. You're flowing in all the appliances, not just this appliance. But you are now stuck into thinking, I am only into this appliance, and not only that, my identification with this appliance is total, and if something happens to this appliance, then something happens to me, the electricity. This is a delusion. This is a delusion. And this is the one that needs to be corrected. Here Swami Viditatmananda Ji gave a very beautiful example. It happens to all of us, that sometimes you are taking a wrong direction to be the right direction. You're going in a direction which you think is the right one, when in fact you're going in opposite to where you want to go. Happens because you did not look into it accurately. You're ignorant of what is east, what is west, and you are now making a complete mistake. I'm sure this is your experience, certainly has happened to me as well. This is called Bhrantijanyam. How you can say, how did that happen? You just didn't know. You made a wrong assumption. And so similarly, it's very possible that I don't know that my truth is that of a sakshi, that it is na udeti na astameshi esha na vriddhim yati na kshayam. I just don't know it. And therefore, I take myself to be not just this body, but of course I take this to be a body which is the deha tadatmyam. But I take myself to be a person who is limited and who is not completely happy. Is going in the wrong direction. And so this needs to have some correction. So in the next class, we will complete this Bhranti Janyam, which is at least I've introduced to you. So we'll complete this. And more importantly, in verse number 9, which is the next verse, how do we correct this tadatmya? So this threefold tadatmyam, threefold identification, one with chitchaya, one with deha, and one with sakshi. These threefold identification, which causes me the issue of being a samsari, how do we correct it? That is the more important thing. Fine, all this theoretical knowledge is okay, but the question is practically, how do I become free of problems in my life? So this will be carried on in number 9, a very beautiful sequence. The first 4 verses, 5 verses were to talk about the 2 basic elements, which is sakshi and all the inert, then the nature of the individual, how the individuality takes place, how it causes problems, and then how do we get out of it. This is how it proceeds. Beautiful text. So we will do that next week. So let me say a quick prayer, and then I have a quick announcement to make about next week. Om Asato Ma Satgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So I have an announcement for the next week's class. So what has happened is that next Saturday, I'll even back off for a minute, as many of you know, and this is a repetition from what I said in the first class, so those of you, this is a repetition for it. We have a charitable work that we do, which was started by my Guru Swami Dayanandji. It's called Aim for Seva, and many of you may not know about it, which is okay. I'm just giving you just a quick introduction to it. This was a charitable work which was started to help the young children of villages and forest dwellers. So this is called Adivasis. The Adivasis are a special set of people in India who essentially have not even embraced the mainstream of society. They are completely isolated, and it's the same life for the last thousands of years. They have no electricity, none of the modern things of life, and they're isolated completely. and their life becomes very difficult because they don't really come out of it. Their children are born in the same thing and so on. But slowly there is an attempt to resurrect their culture and to their education and to help with them. So Swami Dayanandji has taken on that. It's a very successful program, and we are all part of that. We raise money for it and so on and so forth. So next Saturday there's going to be a meeting which is an online meeting. So usually those of us that are managing different centers in the US, we get together in the Sailorsburg Ashram once a year to discuss what needs to be done, how to go about doing it, etc. So we meet together. But since we cannot do it because of the coronavirus, this year we are going to have an online meeting for 2 hours. And that happens to be next Saturday at the same time that I'm teaching a class. So the organizers requested me to postpone my class as a result of this Aim for Seva National Convention, which will be next Saturday at 8 o'clock, 8 to about 11 or so, 10:30 to 11, right in the middle of the classes. So what I've decided is, if it's okay with you, we will shift the class to the following day, which is Sunday. Sunday, the 26th of July, I will send you an email. Same time, the two classes, one starting at 8 o'clock and the other one starting at 10 o'clock. This one starting at 10 o'clock. So that will be on Sunday. I'm sure it will inconvenience many of you that already have programs for Sunday. But I thought that instead of not having a class at all, we will simply shift it by one day to accommodate the request for Aim for Seva organizers. So please make a note of it, and I will also send you an email confirming this so that you are aware of it. And then I'm announcing it now because many of you are not registered and so do not get my email, and so those of people should not be disappointed, and we will get together next Sunday, the 26th. Okay, let me see if you have any questions. Okay. So a question from either Andrea or Ramanand Patel. If in this life I commit a crime and I'm in prison, at least I know, whereas to suffer something because of a previous karma that I'm not even aware of seems very unfair. So how can God be so unfair? Ramanand, how can a divine system be inferior than a system designed by human beings? I don't quite understand what you're saying. It's just the other way around, actually. Just the opposite of what you're saying. That to commit an act and not be given the proper punishment or reward is unfair, right? So the fairness The so-called fairness means that there is in fact a predictable relationship between an action and the result of that action. This is fairness. Okay? So, if one takes advantage of the fact that it is possible to do an action and get away from it because it has not been acknowledged, that action has not been acknowledged, that is unfairness. That means that you can get away with doing something. So in the entire realm of Ishvara, see, all of this comes about because of the non-understanding. We think that there is no connection between my life now and earlier. This is what happens. You make an assumption that I am only here now in this life and I have nothing to do with the previous life. In some way, it's interesting. It is like, you go to sleep at night time. And if you do, you completely sever the connection with who you were yesterday. You're a completely different person because you are not there anymore. But then you wake up again and then you say, what I did yesterday has nothing to do with me today. I'm a brand new person. That cannot be. You are the same person. In this case, we have the same body and so on and so forth. So, what our Shastras say is, please see that there is very little difference between deep sleep and death. Very little difference. In fact, the only difference is, in other words, all of the laws of karma are continuous. Laws of karma means that you have you've done some things in this life also, and you will be either punished or rewarded for it as you go forward. So there is continuity between them. Now, the only difference between death and sleep is, after you wake up from sleep, your body is still serviceable and you can go back to it. In the case of death, you have to get a brand new body. But you as the jiva is still the same. Even though you have to get a brand new body, that doesn't mean you're a new jiva. Your sukshma sharira, your antakarana, etc. is still the same. But you get a brand new body. And also, the design of the universe is that in your next life, your software is not aware of your previous life. And this is by design, and it's a very good design, because as it is, we have a lot of problems in this life. This is what happens. You get married, then you get divorces, and supposing you have a divorce. Now for a while you are still concerned about your ex-spouse. But after a while, what happens to the ex-spouse you don't care about, because you're remarried, you've got children. And you cannot be really worried about the ex-wife, because now it's gone. Something like that is there from one life to the other. As it is that we are under a lot of stress in making sure that my family is well taken care of, if now you have to worry about the last 10 lives, imagine what your life will be. You are not attending to your current children because you are worried about your previous children. I wonder how they are. Did they get into a college or not? So Ishvara said, let's not bother him with the memory. That's a fresh start for him. But that doesn't mean that your continuity is lost. So to answer your question, it is only fair that the karma phalas have a continuity. Not having a continuity is unfair. So it's just the opposite of what you think. Anyway, think about it. Varun. So both good and bad karmas will bind, one with golden chain and second with iron chain. Seems like only solution is one which is a karta and always free from the cycle of karta. And yes, absolutely, you're absolutely correct, yes. Chandra Dulam, can you please expand on why ahankara tadatmyam with chitchaya is sahajam? We don't seem to be aware of it, just as we are unaware of the sakshi. So yeah, that's a good question, Chandra, and I will spend more time on all the tadatmyams next week. So kindly wait for it. I'm not completely done with. I just introduced the concept of the tadatmyam in this week, but there's more to be done, and. Just as a historical fact, just to give you an idea, when I first heard this from Swami Dayanandji, this was very early on. This is one of my most impressive grasp of it, of the concepts with Swami Dayanandji. This was in 1978, I think. And I remember it was in Santa Cruz. These 3 or 4 verses, I had a very intense discussion with Swamiji, because I also didn't quite understand exactly as you were asking about the tadatmyam and so on. It didn't quite gel with me, and it took a long discussion. And some of that didn't really become resolved until much later on. So I'll try to tell you what my issues were and so on, without spending a lot of time on it. But please be patient. I will go over the tadatmyam between sahajam and brantijanyam in a bit more detail next week. Okay. Srinivas asks, identification with thought falls under deha tadatmyam. Can you expand? Not sure what you mean by thought. Thought? Oh, you mean maybe thought. Identification with thought falls under deha tadatmyam. Can you expand? So if it is thought, T-H-O-U-G-H-T, then it is something like the deha. But as I was mentioning, Srinivas, a little while ago on the continuity of the jiva, so this is, sometimes in the Western world it is called the soul, S-O-U-L. So the soul in Vedanta is our Sukshma Sharira, the software. So really speaking, that continues on in life. Okay? So the software also has two different forms. Okay? So my thoughts also have 2 different forms. One is where it is somewhat identified with my current situation. Like, for example, you can say, I'm having problems with my health. Supposing this is a thought. This is a thought. So that part of the thinking is indeed associated with this body. So that is deha tadatmyam. Okay? So the physiological functions, etc., can be seen to be part of this deha. But supposing you have thoughts with respect to your attitudes. Whether you are a tolerant person or not tolerant. Are you loving or not loving? So those general thoughts has nothing to do with this body. That's your general nature that you have come to adopt. Those thoughts are not deha associated. They will continue on in the next life. So this is why you find that some children are born with a very pleasing disposition and some children are very irritated and want to fight. And it is all from their previous tendencies. So they say that this is what is called inner wealth. So if you work towards making yourself more tolerant, more loving, that is an inner wealth that will continue with you in the next life. But the thoughts with respect to this deha, yes, you can say that that is associated with the deha tadatmya. Yeah. Any other question? Once again, I would say that if you didn't, I often get questions from people saying that their question was more complex. They didn't want to raise it in this forum. So they send me an email and I have tried my best to reply to it. So please do so. If there are more complex questions or something you don't want to share, then feel free to give me an email and I will try my best. Okay, so as a reminder, we will see you hopefully next Sunday, the 26th. Okay? All right. Om.